If you have a glitch in the Matrix you want to share, or any other true scary story, just go to astheravendreams.com and click the button to send it my way. And of course, thank you. One summer evening, I was driving home from the golf course. It was that time of day where the sun is in just the right spot, where you cannot see very well, even with sunglasses on. I was taking a route that I had never taken before, and was cruising along at my usual 50 miles per hour on the back roads. About 10 minutes into the drive, I looked down at the clock and it was 7:07. Just after this, I looked back up, and a stop sign came out of nowhere, but it was too late. I flew straight through a stop sign at a busy intersection, avoiding cars also traveling at the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit coming from both ways by inches on both sides. I'm a very cautious driver, and in 15 years of driving, I have never been in as much as a fender bender. After this happened, I had to pull over to gather myself, because my heart was in my gut. After I got over the initial shock of almost being seriously injured, and possibly seriously injuring others, I tried to replay the event in my head. It happened extremely fast, but it made no sense that I was able to avoid the cars coming from both directions, and nobody honked or swerved or anything. And while this may seem like just a miraculous stroke of luck, I feel like there was something more to this. Now, this is where things start to make me question how or why everything happened at this particular event the way that it happened. At the time of this event, I was severely depressed. While I was not drinking, I was driving during this event. I was heavily dependent on alcohol. I had hit my rock bottom. But after this happened, things somehow started to shift in my life. Where everything was going poorly for me during the time leading up to this event, things pivoted and started going well for me right after this. For the first time in my life, I was able to get completely sober of all substances. I got an opportunity as an apprentice to work my dream job for one of the largest golf resorts in the world. My relationships with my family and friends were on the upswing. I was granted the opportunity to become a basketball coach for my local high school. Where I wasn't so lucky with intimate relationships in the past, I now had women coming at me and I didn't even have to try anymore. I felt like this wasn't my life. This wasn't the life that I had known. The only thing that felt the same in this life was my sense of self. The day of that near-miss car accident plays over and over and over in my head, and I think about it at least once a week. The thought has crossed my mind several times that I actually died in that event. And this is my purgatory, or afterlife of some sort. It has also crossed my mind that maybe I died in that accident, but my consciousness was given another chance in a parallel universe. I did some research on the significance of the time 7:07 as well. And while I'm not a very superstitious person, 7:07 is considered a mirror hour time. I don't know if I should put too much significance on this, but all I can say is that something is different about this life that I am living. Things feel off. It's hard to put my finger on what exactly is different, but so much has changed since that day that I feel like I don't even know the person that was in that near miss. I will continue to reap the benefits and opportunities that I'm granted in this universe, but somehow, they don't feel like my opportunities. They belong to a different version of me. I'm still in shock with this one. Today, a Thursday, my teenager and I were to go to a wedding. It's an unusual day, so it stands out, at least for me. The RSVP was sent months ago. The invite has been on the fridge. The plan was to get ready once my teen got home from the half day at school, and off we would go. The bride and I are coworkers and have been talking about the upcoming date on a regular, near-daily basis the last month. So, when she didn't log in for work this morning, I was all smiles thinking about her getting ready and how excited she and her fiancé were. Kiddo gets home, we grab the invite with the date and put in the address in for the venue into my phone map. And, damn, there's a massive traffic blockage, and no way around it. We're going to be late, but we will still be there. We get ready to go. As we're about to head out, my office messenger pings on my phone. It's the bride? She's telling me how much she just got done at a job site location and had worked through lunch and is calling it a day. She has loads to tell me, but will catch me in the morning. What the hell? We reach for the physical invite that is now on the table. The date has now changed. It is now on a more normal weekend day. A subject the bride and I had talked about many times on why they had chosen Thursday ultimately, and why I had taken half a day off to be there. Which, looking in my time off request in the HR portal, that time off is no longer listed either. So, I got it back at least. My teen is just as wide-eyed. They read the date out loud when it first came in, read it again when they put it in their calendar reminders, saw it on the paper invite, reading me the address for the venue. This date was populated in our shared work calendar this morning, for crying out loud. The wedding was 100% today at 3, until there was a massive wreck blocking traffic, and until the bride sent that message. I am shook. Update. Next day, so Friday after work. I talked to the bride first thing. Probably came at her a bit strong due to the anxiety. I didn't realize how much posting this experience here would generate that in me, but here we are. She was confused. The conversation we had in the past about how aggravating her stepmother was being, about the wedding falling on a weekday due to the date, she doesn't remember them. Still is not a fan of her stepmother, but not over this. I asked her about the special day being February 15th. This was what kept me up at night. She was quiet at first. It took a little while for her to respond. It's very much like she has no memory of telling me about why that date is so special in both her family and her fiancé's. So let me explain more. Both of them have beloved family members with long-lasting marriages that happened to share the same date. They, being young and in love, just thought that this was a sign, with romance, and all those couple types who are determined to make everything as perfect as the stars can align them to be can. And then she got into stubborn mode with her stepmom over it. There was drama. Multiple times there were discussions as her dad was helping to pay for the event, and the stepmother had a voice that wanted to be heard. A lot. Because of this woman, I, in turn, heard all about it. Her fiancé was at her side and her back. They faced down the discussions. They didn't care what the stepmonster said. They were going to get married on a Thursday because that date was important. And now none of that ever happened. No chat logs on our messenger, I looked. Just stuff about what caterer she went with and things like that. All of that silly drama is gone. And now, well, today, she doesn't seem to even remember telling me about these matching wedding anniversaries. After a bit of chit-chat, she brushed it off as she must have told me about the matching dates at some point. How else could I have known? From her perspective, her wedding has always been set for this future weekend date. If it were not for my teen, I would have convinced myself that I was just hallucinating the whole freaky thing as an intense dream by now, and moved on. Let me repeat that I rarely drink. I do not partake. Raising a teenager is plenty of excitement and distraction at this point in my life. The teen reports nothing really changed at school that they could tell. A few have asked how no other coworkers were alerted. We work remotely. This is why the work messenger is on my phone as well as laptop for the times that I'm on one of the job sites. For those of you kind enough to ask me to check for gas leaks and my carbon monoxide detector batteries, I appreciate the concern. All 3 detectors are fine. We live in a temperate climate. My windows, both yesterday and today, are wide open for fresh air, so not terribly concerned about that factor. This isn't the most exciting story, I'm afraid, but it has me truly confused. For some context, I live in an old industrial town in Yorkshire, England, so the place is full of old mills, one of which I work in. I know the one that I work in was built in the 1870s, but I'm not sure what it manufactured. Today, the basement and a few floors are businesses while the higher floors are flats. So, on to my experience. I was doing my usual walk to work on the main road when I saw a crowd of people blocking my route. Turns out, there had been some sort of vehicle fire and there was a fire truck blocking the road which had drawn an audience. I didn't want to have to push past all of these people, and I was running a little early anyways, so I decided to try a back road which I believed would take me the right way. I walked down the cobbled road, which turned out to be pretty short, with only a small garage on the left. I got back onto the main road, but when I did, it didn't seem right. I could see the mill that I work in the distance, but it looked different somehow. I couldn't put my mind to what it was at first, but then it hit me. The windows to the flats on the higher levels were gone and replaced by much older ones. I thought that was pretty strange as it had the modern white ones when I was last there a few days ago, but thought maybe it was just a visual change to bring back the old look of the building. I took a couple of steps further and took a look around, and was surprised when the takeaway that is usually on the corner wasn't there, and instead it looked to be some sort of shoe repair shop. I thought this strange as the building looked very different to the one I had seen hundreds of times before. I didn't get a good look around as it was still pretty dark, as it tends to be in the British winter. Thinking I had taken the wrong route, I turned around and went back to the road I had walked down. This was all the same with the garage to my side, so I turned around again and went back. But this time the mill looked normal, and the takeaway was back. I was incredibly confused, but had to get to work. I had a pretty busy day at work, but this was always in the back of my mind. I went home and started doing some searching online about my experience, and eventually came across the concept of a time slip. I watched some videos and listened to some podcasts, and the people in these stories seemed to have similar experiences to me. I'm not 100% convinced that this is what happened, but I'm not sure how else to explain it. I can't have been that tired that I was looking at the wrong buildings, and I've never seen a shoe repair shop in that location before or since. This happened a couple of days ago now, and I'm still not sure what to think. Could this have been a time slip? This story could fall under a time slip, except I went back in time, rather than forward or losing time. I had a mind-blowing experience 2 nights ago. We had a storm here, suddenly, out of nowhere, right around 10 p.m. I was still out, then it was like 0 to 60. My house was being shaken by enormous blasts of wind. Everyone else was dead asleep already. My husband and 2 elementary-aged kids. We'd all fallen asleep in the living room watching TV, so only I experienced this in my household. The wind was so hard that it thundered through our house, and I felt my ears actually pop due to the pressure change inside, despite the only air leakage capable through things like stove vents. I was actually shocked by the ferocity of the sudden windstorm, despite living in what many call Rain City, and having just 2 seasons here. Wet, stormy weather for 9 months, and then a mildly hot summer for 3 months. This storm, though, was atypical to say the least. I then fell asleep somehow despite being physically shook by the storm, and somewhat unnerved by it. I woke up at 2:38 a.m. I remember because I checked the clock, and was bummed that my husband's alarm was to go off at 2:45 a.m., to get up by 3, and wake up with coffee till 4 and be out the door by 4:30, so he could be at work at 5. I wanted to get back to sleep before being reawakened by his alarms. I was drenched in sweat. The storms had stopped by then, and it was absolutely still and silent out. Unusually still. Not even a slight breeze or a single raindrop. I got up, changed out of my sweaty PJs, and laid back down to try to sleep before my husband's alarm. I then awoke again at 12:38 a.m., 2 hours earlier. Again, no sign of any storm. I then got up, got a snack, laid down, and fell asleep. But I awoke again every 15 to 20 minutes all night after that. I kept thinking, wow, this is the longest night ever. So I'd somehow gained 2 hours, uninvolved in any daylight savings time or anything. The clock that I check is analog. It's battery run, and the time had to be physically changed on the clock itself if needed. I checked our phone and our wall clock as well, another battery run analog clock, and again, all the times matched on each clock, and my cell phone too, when I woke up at 2:38 a.m., and then 12:38, and every 15 to 20 minutes until morning. So, WTF. How did I go back 2 hours to 12:38 a.m.? What's up with the weird storm? No one else in my neighborhood remembers it. They all said the same thing. I was dead asleep. Some even reported passing out at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. Oddly early for them. In fact, they all seemed surprised by how deep they all slept. The storm did happen. Leaves, branches, and debris were blown everywhere the next morning, and everything was soaking wet. Although it had stopped at 2:38 a.m., as well as zero storm activity at 12:38 a.m. Did it have anything to do with my time jump? Did we all jump together? Did I leave my dimension and join yours? I hope not. I would prefer to raise my kids from my original dimension. But again, WTF? Has anyone else ever gained time like this, rather than lost time? If so, what was your experience? And does anyone have any theories as to what happened? Or any theories as to why? How or what it means, if anything? I'm so curious, so share your thoughts with me. An incredibly weird thing just happened to me while I was sleeping. Basically, I had just had a pretty boring dream where I was doing chores around my house, but then I saw my cat that had recently died. Alive, just sitting there. I instantly thought this was a dream and tried to pet her before it's over, as all dreams tended to end right after I realized they're dreams. But it didn't end. I looked closer at the cat to test if I was in a dream, since when I focus on something in particular in dreams, they usually end. It did not end. I slowly walked from my bathroom where the cat was sitting to the kitchen, feeling every step, thinking about if I'm in a dream, in a different world, or have gone insane. And I asked my mother if the cat we had is in good health right now as to not draw much suspicion, just in case. She said that the cat has needed a lot of care and was saved from dying recently at the cost of not tending to carrots, but doing fine now, which is kind of a weird thing to say. Then I walked to another room where a computer is located in both reality and that dream. The room was cleaner, and had some kind of brochure from a diamond processing facility for some reason. As I was about to search on the internet whether recent major political events and such had happened, at this point being 90% convinced I'm in a parallel reality or something like that, I heard, "Found you," in a previously not heard by me ever, not very masculine but definitely male voice. And I immediately woke up. And that was weird. So I went back to lying on my bed with my eyes closed, until I suddenly continued the dream somehow, completely remembering what happened in the dream and me thinking about it. Except I was on the outskirts of a town now. There was a weirdly small amount of cars and a weirdly high amount of people walking. I walked towards the town while looking around. All of my dreams before that had a town in them were of places I've been to before. I have definitely never been to that place. Most buildings were 2 to 3 floors, but there were some high ones. Eventually, I stumbled upon a building with a very weird design. It had lots of metal-looking cubes on different sizes on its walls, most likely decorative. I can't imagine what purpose they would serve. I decided to go inside. It looked half renovated with some walls, and a mechanical door to another part of the building looking brand new, while floors were just wooden with a pattern that is quite common. I can easily find an image of it on the internet and link to it if needed. An announcement was being said every few seconds about some newly installed AI door, and other stuff about a control system being tested. There was a room with computers that looked a bit old, and a lot of wooden furniture to the left. It had no door. Closer to the left was a map that I decided to look at. It was a map of this building. There was a huge vat of cesium, of weird shapes, and a bunch of smaller vats with other chemicals with longer names which I didn't have time to memorize, as the single person that was sitting in the room with computers rose up, and I quickly exited. That facility's map gave me an idea to try checking the map of the city using my phone, which probably wouldn't have worked anyways. But as I reached for my phone, a voice similar to that of my mother said, "Where?" And as I thought maybe my mother saw me disappear from the regular reality or something, I suddenly woke up again. My mom was still sleeping. This is very weird for multiple reasons. How was I able to see text in my dreams, especially as long as I saw? Why was I only able to wake up after some random people said "found you" and where? Everything was insanely detailed for a dream, and there wasn't anything so weird that it would be impossible within the laws of physics. I figured that people on this subreddit might know how to tell apart a regular dream from something that's actually weird. I had the craziest but coolest thing happen. It did happen during a dream, but it did not feel like a dream. What happened was my alarm clock woke me up, but I had stayed up late last night and was still a bit tired, so I decided to get some more sleep. Well, I heard my hubby call out my name, and I started to wake back up. I was very groggy and out of it, and was having trouble moving and getting awake. I heard him panicking, so I yelled out that I was coming. I began to think that maybe there was a fire. My this-life husband doesn't panic in emergencies. I finally threw off the covers and ran towards the stairs. Something immediately made me feel like something was off, per se. We have a hallway that leads to a staircase that is enclosed in walls. I could see downstairs. I was confused, and my brain asked, "Where is the stair rail? We don't have one in this life." I shook my head and tried to put it out of my mind to focus. I ran down the stairs, and my hubby was sitting on the stairs crying, head in his hands. This life's hubby is not very emotional. Never seen him cry in 17 years. I grabbed his hands and pulled them away from his face, thinking the worst had happened. I asked him what was wrong, but I noticed he looked a bit different, just slightly, and a bit younger. Again, I was caught off guard by this, but was more concerned with what happened and if he was okay. He tried telling me what upset him, but he was whispering and upset, so it was hard to understand him. I'm very hard of hearing in this life. I shook my head and told him, "Let me put my ears in," which is what I say when I wear my hearing aids. And then I looked downstairs to see our cat Margot. She was standing kind of on her back legs and lifting her paw into the air and meowing in pain. She was shaking it and hopping around, and I kind of guessed that he probably stepped on her and broke her foot, and he felt bad. It was then that it just dawned on me. This isn't my timeline, and then poof, I woke up in bed. I don't know what to think. I really hope my husband is okay. I feel bad for just shifting out like that. Also, I do have questions. Was I actually there? Was I possessing another me's body? I do like the thought that me and him are so connected that another him called me when in need, and I went to him. But what do you guys think? Also, my husband was awake at the time. So, this strange situation happened a few years ago. I can't even remember what year, but it was maybe 2022. I was drinking a lot back then, so maybe that's what caused this, but anyway, here it is. I, 23 female, had just recently moved into a new apartment, so I wanted to have a little apartment warming with a few of my friends. We were drinking and playing card games, but we weren't being too loud. At least I didn't think. Just for background, I had a drinking problem back then, which meant I could drink a lot before getting drunk. I've only blacked out a handful of times in my life, and that night was absolutely not one of them. Anyways, it was early enough that I had only had a few drinks, but I wasn't even tipsy yet, and we had just started looking back at old kids shows we used to watch like Toy Castle, and pointed out just how creepy it was. I get a knock on my door, we pause the show, and I open the door to a guy that was about our age, ranging from 21 to 25. He welcomed me to the apartment, but was telling me that he worked the next day and that he lived right above me, and asked if we could keep it down a little and that he would appreciate it. It was about 7 p.m., and I believe it was a Thursday. However, it also may have been a Saturday, because I remember being confused as to why somebody would be working the next day, but I apologized and agreed anyways. We said goodbye, and I closed the door. I remember when I got back to the table, when we were hanging out, I told my friends that I thought it was weird with him being so young like us, and it only being around 7 p.m. that he would have an issue with our volume, even though I respected that he was working the next day. Anyways, my friends responded to me saying this still has me messed up to this day. They all looked at me confused, and one of them had said, "Young? You said he was like 50. What? I don't even remember them asking me what age he was. I said, "What do you mean? He's literally our age." Another one of my friends said in confusion, "We asked you who it was, and you said, I don't know, some 50-year-old guy." What? We spent the next 30 minutes to an hour going over this, and I thought they must have just been messing with me. I said, "Okay, seriously, if you guys are messing around, stop now and just tell me the truth. I don't even remember you guys asking me, but even if you did, why would I lie about his age?" They were all serious at this point, and none of them seemed like they were lying or trying to hold something back. Even years after I asked, they still stayed true to their story that night that I said he was 50. I still have no explanation, and it bothers me to this day. So that, my friends, was a collection of 7, I guess, parallel universe and time slip stories, a subset, if you will, of Glitch in the Matrix stories. It's been asked that I do these, and I did find a subreddit that actually talks about this kind of stuff, so I requested some stories, got a few back, and here we go. Yeah. I don't know if I'll do these too frequently in their own separate collections. I feel like each one of these would have a proper home in a Glitch in the Matrix collection, so I think I will probably keep them there, but if there's enough interest, maybe I'll do another one that splits these out a little bit. Who knows? Maybe. We'll see. If not, I'll still probably request and do them, because they are good stories and they're very interesting situations, so, yeah. Anyways, hopefully you all enjoyed the stories. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel and enjoyed what you heard, consider subscribing, as I post content frequently. And if you're feeling bold, you can go down below the video and leave me a comment with your thoughts, how you're doing, how your week's going, etc. And then, of course, you can join Patreon or membership to get early access to content like this, and other stuff depending on what you sign up for. The other thing you can do is, of course, if you have a story you want to share, go to astheravendreams.com, so my channel name, but .com, and click the big button in the middle of the screen that says Submit Your Story. I then get them directly, and I put them in videos depending on what they're about, where they go, blah, 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 so forth and so on. Yeah. All that said, friends, hope you're having a beautiful week and a beautiful day, and I hope I do see you again here very soon. But until then, remember, you are loved, you are valid, you are important, you are the best you that you can be. Don't forget it. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And until I see you again, my friends, much love, and of course, sleep well.